Today's AskReddit post. What do you think the USA will be most known for 100 years from now? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. As a great poet said, Coca-Cola. Sometimes war. Also Mickey Mouse and Wonder Bra. Probably something that happens between now and 2124 and not something prior. If I had to guess, in 2124 America will be known for something that happened in 2123. Unless something really major happens in 2122. And then by 2125 everyone will have moved on to something else. Unless it ceases to exist prior. Then it'll be known for whatever caused its downfall. Technology, war, and war technology, and tasty burgers. Other countries have mastered burger technology already. How we handle the water shortages in the Southwest. It will either be an insane migration disaster or a miracle feat of engineering. Putting my money on the version that makes corporations the most money. So both. Yep, that tracks. The resource wars. Capturing the last large iceberg and towing it with 2 aircraft carriers. I think the world will just get better at desalination. Over having a nuclear war over icebergs. If we get to the global desalination stage, we'll have a different crisis in figuring what to do with all the leftover salt. Toy Story 2. Finally a good answer. The technology revolution. Since last 2 decades, Silicon Valley will be remembered in the same category as Florence/Venice for Renaissance. Making the prophetic film Idiocracy. You mean the documentary? /s. Edit. Apparently some of you didn't catch the sarcasm in that comment. Our Idiocracy, where everyone is too stupid to do any maintenance. But somehow everything still works. The best example is when someone calls it documentary. Its pivotal role in transforming humanity through the rapid escalation of technological development. This is hard to overstate how much technology has come out of the US since WW1. Especially when you consider that the Stone Age lasted like a million years. We've come a crazy long way in 1 century. Reddit is so petulant. US was the superpower that developed in the 20th century, became world superpower, and developed much and advanced much of the world's technology that propelled the 20th and 21st century. Whether that stays remains to be seen, but to ignore its contributions in 20th and 21st century is revisionist. It will almost certainly be known for the era of comparative world peace and an era of internationalization. Pax Americana. In 100 years, parts of the USA might be known as a climate refuge. Edgy teen comments. Late stage capitalism. Bro. After glorious workers' revolution, no one will have to work. Somehow. It will be a cautionary tale of what happens to a society that measures its value by corporate profits instead of individual prosperity. Being the only country that adamantly refuses to use the metric system for the general public, we use it for drugs, ammo, and electronics. You know, the important stuff. Don't forget 2-liter bottles of Dr. Pepper. Apple make iPhone 115 Pro maximum. Space exploration, medical innovation, and technological innovation. Specifically AI. We likely will not have another world war. Climate and other ecological changes will be harsh, but humanity will rise to the occasion. Plus all countries will be blamed for that. Current issues like Trump or whatever will be long forgotten by most people in 100 years. We will not implode, so none of the capitalism failing people will be right, which they wouldn't anyway, because we are only semi-capitalistic. People living in space will be huge in 100 years. People will be living longer and healthier lives in 100 years. Technology and AI will be even bigger parts of people's lives in 100 years. These 3 things are what will be central to most people's lives then. And the USA will be remembered as central to the development of all of them. Not to say other countries, notably China, won't be. One word, Hubris. For Coca-Cola and Burger King. Examples of how empires decay. The idiots that gave it all away. Sold. Fat people in tracksuits roaming through the aisles of a ridiculously large convenience store. The comment I needed, not wanted. Brave of you to assume there will be any semblance of humanity left in 100 years. He. Inventing the machines that took over humanity. Weapons technology. Incompetent presidents. Probably something to happen within the next 100 years. Sparks. Cultural and business/economics impacts at a structural level. Once fossil fuels are no longer an economic driver, these may become even larger. The US won't truly be appreciated until it's gone. Depends on if that happens in the next 100 years. 2,000 years from now, the US will be studied the same way the modern world studies Rome and ancient Greece. Being the most powerful military and economy in the history of the world. Hopefully abolishing the two-party system. This brings out the worst in your population. You guys can't find mutual ground for anything, because it means you're not pro-opposite of the other party. It's just very silly observing this from the other side of the planet. Our parties will go out of their way to vote against things that help the people because it's what the opposing party wants. All that's left is the corpus that either attempt to or outright by the legislature needed to further their interests at the cost of the populace. School shootings and obesity, just like now. Arrogance. The United States was the world's first modern democracy. At the time of its independence, the world was full of tyrants, monarchs, and potentates. The US will be known for a transition from that era to current one where even the most authoritarian leaders styles themselves as a president. Now there's dictators who desperately want to be considered presidents, and presidential candidates who desperately want to be considered legally immune dictators. Our diversity has always been our most competitive advantage on the world stage. It was what we were most well known for 100 years ago as well. Racism is a problem in the US, but man are there worse places. I'm sure someone has done the numbers, but the US is in fact very diverse and has got to be pretty high on the list of diverse nations. Being nosy and trying to boss all the other countries around, acting like we are the world police. Probably Microsoft or Apple. If anything survive an American collapse, I'd imagine it would be one of them. Maybe Google. Military power, technology. How massive of an influence it has. There's a documentary called A World Without US that explore what would happen if the US never existed. Having everything and ducking it up. 100 years is a long time, but greed, status quo if we the people don't speak up and end the corruption. We have an abundance of resources, yet children and people are suffering every damn day. Meanwhile, rich people buy food for Instagram likes and don't even eat it. It's disgusting. You should read about the robber baron era in US history. Before Teddy Roosevelt and the progressives pushed for monopoly busting, things were pretty bad. It took decades to move to a better way. There were no restrictions on child labor, safety conditions, or any sort of pay standards whatsoever. Yet, things continued onward. It's entirely possible that the system continues to evolve. War crimes and racism. Global terrorism. And have the biggest prison population in human history. USA. We will be remembered like the end of the Prussian Empire, as people so bifurcated by influential other empires that we couldn't vote for our own preservation. I also think our current infatuation with Spartans is telling. We used to talk more about Athenians. You can see tributes to democracy and education all over schools and libraries from the 50s and 60s. But now we idolize Spartans, who enslaved neighboring communities to meet their food needs, while they were hyper-focused on their military culture. Eventually they started a civil war with Athens over who was going to have more influence over the Grecian states. Sparta prevailed after 100 years of war, but also triggered widespread famine and weakened the country as a whole, leaving it vulnerable to being absorbed into Roman Empire. I'm not sure we'll be around to answer that. Doing absolutely duck all about climate change. Neck-bearded Redditors. Music and film. Those are our biggest cultural contributions over the last 100 years that will be remembered many years from now as well. Especially jazz, blues, rock and hip hop, as well as our movies. Guns. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.